announcements. Next week, Dean mentioned we will not be in this building. We will be out at Sulphur Lake Campground. And for those of you who are not familiar with it, it is straight down 68, technically Williamstown, which is not very far. If you blink and you're through it. So we were going to have, we have directions, and we'll have the, posted on the door as well to let people know that we're not being in here this week, this coming week. And so if you have any questions about how to get there, I can tell you, come see me after the service, copy down the directions. Anthony did a great job getting these together. So thank you, Anthony, for that. We will have them up on the door as well. I have, as of right now, I have 4 people that have told me they want to be baptized. If you are contemplating that and want to ask me what all that means and what's entailed, again, please do that after the service. I'd be happy to explain that to you, and you would be able to participate in that with us. We're going to have our lunch afterwards, so please come out and join us, and it's going to be another great day. This is our 3rd year, right, of doing it there, and it's, yes.
Just reiterate, it is a carry-in, but we're just going to do it there.
Yeah, we're going to have our carry-in dinner there in the picnic area, the building that they have there. It's always really neat. The service, having a service outside is always really cool as well. If the weather keeps up like it is, it won't be too cold. So we're excited about that as well. We had, as we concluded last week with the fair, oh, come on. I was out there all day, every day. No one can complain about it. It was a great time. We had our best year ever, okay? Due in part to everyone who worked out there. Thank you for volunteering. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for scooping and doing all of that. We had over $250 worth of sales just on the square. So that was definitely a good ad. Thank you, Lynn, for getting that, Ron and Lynn, for getting that done, helping us out with that and dragging us, kicking and screaming into the technological age. And we had almost $300 in coupons from the courier, $284, I believe. And our partnership with them, what happens is someone gets a coupon from the courier, they come up and get their free ice cream, but the courier pays us for those coupons. So so that was great. We had, Pete had come up with the idea of giving out, CrossPoint people giving out the green coupons. And with those, I'm not totally sure how many, off the top of my head, how much money we had from that, but there were several dozen given out, and those were redeemed as well. But we had over $10,000 in sales, which is the first time, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, the first time that we topped that $10,000. So that was amazing. And the ice cream portion of it, the bill that we owe, that's right around $4,000. So not bad. So thank you all for your hard work out there. Yes. Good stuff done out there. So we want to thank you all for that, and we look forward to doing that again, but not too soon. we were able to pass out a lot of the flyers for the 24th, for the September 24th, and we were able to make some connections with some other agencies. Great Scott is going to have a special one-day sale to draw people into the area. That was very gracious of Mike to do that, and we're working with State Highway Patrol, the K9, the Sheriff's K9 group, Life Flight, even Hanco, and some other people just to have them out here during that time, and we're going to have, hopefully, I'll find out this week, we'll have a dunk booth where you can dunk the pastor. And anyone else who wants to volunteer volunteer. There's too much excitement at that, I think, but no. So it's all good. So, but it's going to be a big event. So please come out and support that, and thank you for all of the people who are putting that together. Yes.
Just if anybody wants to help with the planning or passing out flyers or anything during that day, we're going to have a very short meeting back in the first grade room right after the service.
Okay.
Very short
So
meeting.
right after the service, first grade classroom, there will be a quick meeting if you would like to help out in any way. Also, there is a women's retreat Friday and Saturday, October 7th and 8th at Mount Tabor Church of God in Salina, Ohio. And I have the information here. There's a poster out on the board. If you are interested in registering for this, I gave Ann a registration for her women's group. There are some registrations on the back table as well. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. But all the information is on the flyers, and so there's some on the back table, and there's a big poster in the hall. So, and without further ado, we have a special guest speaker who gets the Traveling Trophy Award today for furthest miles traveled to attend CrossPoint service. Pastor Doug Molgard from Sweden is here, and really excited to hear what he has to say about my ancestral home. So welcome. Oh, the children are dismissed to the Sunday school class. Sorry, I forgot that part.
Wow. Good morning.
Good morning.
It's really a privilege to be here. It's so nice coming in here and feel the hospitality and the warmth. And I just love coming to this kind of church because I feel at home right away. So thank you for inviting me and allowing me to come and share with you this morning. My name is Douglas Molgard. I am a missionary, Church of God missionary in Gothenburg, Sweden. Anybody know where that is? One person does. I know because you've been there. But Gothenburg, Sweden is in the very north. I happen to be one of those missionaries that if you go back there and look on the map, you can find me real easy because I'm the only one in the north. Someone who loves the sunshine and the warm weather. I, for some reason, been put in the cold weather. Our average temperature in Sweden this summer was 66 degrees, while you guys over here cooking in 90-degree weather or whatever it is. And I got to admit, I'm jealous because, but I'm here now, falling out, so I'm enjoying my time. I'm just here. I just flew in on Friday, so I'm a little bit jet lagged. So bear with me if I start falling asleep up here a little bit. But it is a privilege to be here, and today I'm just going to share a little bit about what I've done, but mostly about what we're doing in reaching one of the most secular nations in the world, and what that means. And so I hope you also can get something out of it, and something that will encourage you today. Before I do that, though, I'm going to read from Matthew chapter 13. Just a parable that Jesus, this is a very familiar parable that Jesus spoke about. On the same day, starting verse 1, on the same day Jesus went out of the house and sat by the sea. And great multitudes were gathered together to him, so that he got into a boat and sat in the whole multitude, stood on the shore. Then he spoke many things to them in parables, saying, Behold, a sower went out to sow. And as he sowed, some seed fell by the wayside, and the birds came and devoured them. Some fell on the stony places, where they did not have much earth, and they immediately sprang up, because they had no depth of earth. But when the sun was up, they were scorched, because they had no roots, and they withered away. And some fell among the thorns, and the thorns sprang up and choked them, and others fell on good ground and yielded crops, some 100-fold, some 60, some 30. He who has an ear to hear, let him hear. And then Jesus explained this parable. Therefore, hear the parable of the sower. When anyone hears the word of the kingdom and does not understand it, then the wicked one comes and snatches away what was sown in his heart. This is he who received the seed by the wayside. But he who received the seed on the stony places, this is he who hears the word and immediately receives it with joy. Yet he has no root in himself and endures only for a while. For when the tribulations, persecutions arise because of the word, immediately he stumbles. And now he who receives the seed among the thorns is is he who hears the word and the cares of this world, the deceitfulness of riches, choke the word, and he becomes unfruitful. But he who receives the seed on good ground is he who hears the word and understands it. He indeed bears fruit and produces some 100-fold, 60, and some 30. May God bless the reading of his word today. Yes, so, as I said, I'm a missionary in Gothenburg, Sweden, but I've been in Europe for 27 years, a long time. Went over as a missionary 27 years ago, 1989. So I've seen a lot of changes in the world today. I went over just as the Berlin Wall was falling down and Eastern Europe was opening up. It was an amazing time. We saw so many things happening, and at that time I lived 2 years in Germany. Took millions of dollars of aid. Took millions of dollars of aid to Eastern Europe, to Romania, to hospitals, to orphanages, to churches all over Romania, Bulgaria. We took thousands of Bibles into places where they have not had Bibles. I mean, one incredible story. I got to tell you this story about when we took Bibles up into a mountain in Romania at that time. And we drove these vans up in the mountains in Romania, filled with Bibles, and we come to this little village, up in the middle of nowhere. And out of this little church, up in this village, comes out this little man, about this big, long white beard. Yes, it looked like Santa Claus. And I thought it was Santa Claus. I said, well, I know where Santa Claus lives now. But it's just a really cute little pastor of this church, and it looked like Santa Claus, and we opened up the back of that van, and you would have thought it was Christmas. I mean, that little pastor, he just started crying. He just wept and wept and wept, and we're like, what's wrong? Then he said, in Romanian, and with the translator, he said, for 30 years I've been praying for these Bibles. I mean, what an experience, you know. That's just a small sample of what happened during those days. And then we took outreach teams and did dramas and sang on the streets and saw hundreds of people come to know Jesus during those days. And there was a harvest happening in Eastern Europe at that time. But we would do the same dramas and the same skits on the streets in Western Europe, and the only thing we got was a couple of drunks walking by, making fun of you, and people walking by, those religious freaks, you know, kind of a thing. And so we realized that, you know, there's two different worlds. You had this great harvest in Eastern Europe, and you had this really hard ground in Western Europe. And my wife and I, we spent the summer down in Romania, and we worked with another ministry also. We started ministry in Germany together with the German church. And we called it Challenge Aid International, and we were working with another ministry called Calvary Commission. And so they came over and took over all the work that we were doing, and today there's 2 churches planted. We bought property down here. Just amazing things were happening. But I'm not trying to make a long story short. But I ended up in Sweden. Again, making a long story short, I ended up in Sweden, and there we've been working with church planting off and on, as well as I traveled around as an evangelist in Europe with a gospel band that sang in churches and so on, and I would preach. And then in 2001, we came over to the States for a couple years, and during those first years, we were affiliate missionaries of Churches of God, and then we came back to become Church of God missionaries. I grew up in the Churches of God. My father is a Church of God pastor. He's now retired. So I'm a TK in the Churches of God. So then I went back to Sweden. Again, I'm tired, so if I get a little lost and stumble, just bear with me. But we went back to Sweden. By the way, I'm married to a Swede, and have 3 children. I didn't say that at the beginning. My oldest child is 23. She's studying in Edinburgh, Scotland. My second child is 21. She's just started at university in a city in Sweden, and my youngest child is 15, and she's in 9th grade. So just to share a little bit about my family as well. But so it was nice to come back to the States and my children to get to know my parents and to get to know the culture here and so on. And every one of my kids growing up in a very secular culture loves God, and I'm so grateful for that. And I'm grateful for that in a sense because I know the churches back home are praying for us and caring enough for us, and they get cards and birthday cards and down there by the way. Just a little side note there. But my family and I, we moved back to Sweden as Church of God missionaries in 2005. And since that time, we've been planning a couple churches, 2 churches. Again, what I'm trying to do here is not say too much. I'm trying to cut it down to keep it very simple. But in 2005, we went over and to plant a church, and the King family came over with us. Caleb's sitting there. Raise your hand. I think everybody knows her. And she was just a little girl back in those days. And Kevin and Kelly came, and Kirsten and Kaylee came, and we started a children's ministry. My wife said, listen, we're going to plant a church. One thing we're going to do is have the children first. Because we've planted churches in the past, the children are always put aside. And so we're going to focus in on the children. So we started a children's ministry called Faith Factory. Remember that? Yeah. So we started a children's ministry. It had like 70 kids coming, and it was just good times. It was a fun time. And then we started an English-speaking group. My vision was my vision was to plant an English-speaking church in Gothenburg, and it was a vision I carried since 1993. In 1993, we went to Stockholm to get my oldest daughter's American citizenship at the American Embassy, and then we visited a church called New Life in Stockholm. And New Life was just a new church that was starting up, sort of like this church, sort of a contemporary style church, more your traditional contemporary attractional kind of church. And I said, oh, a church like this I want to see in Gothenburg. I got to see something like this happening in Gothenburg. So I carried a vision from 1993 to 2005. And so in 2005, when we went back, we partnered with this organization, or the denomination in Sweden called Evangelical Free Church denomination. It's not the same as here. And so I said to this pastor, I said, would you be willing to come and help mentor us and start a church? I've had this vision since 1993 to have a church like your church here. And so to make, again, a long story short, we ended up starting a church called New Life, Gothenburg, English-speaking church, English-Swedish-speaking church. We always had somebody translating beside us. And so today that church is up and running and has about 80 people coming, about the size of your church here, actually. But one thing about that church is why it is up and running and why it's working today is because it attracts expats, people who are working in Sweden, it attracts students, people moving in from other countries, it attracts immigrants, English-speaking people, it attracts Swedes who likes English, or Christian Swedes, more or less. But something we found very, very, very difficult was getting Swedish people to come to church. And this was something that was very much on me and my wife's heart. How do we reach the Swedish culture? And the Swedish culture is very secular. It's basically they don't want God, they don't need God. And I'm going to explain that a little bit more in detail shortly. And so me and my wife, we would make friends with our neighbors, and who were Swedes, and they just didn't want anything to do with church. So we felt like, okay, this church is up and running, and our heart was really mission to the Swedes. How do we reach the Swedish people? And so there was another organization that we had contact with called Christian Associates International. We have been working in Sweden for over 40 years. Soon we celebrated 50 years. And they also planted English-speaking churches. They started out planting English-speaking churches in Geneva, and Amsterdam, and different places in Europe. And today they realized something's happening, and we can't plant churches like we did before. We have to think outside the box and plant churches in different ways. And so when we heard about this organization, we were deciding, should we connect with that organization or should we connect with this organization in Sweden? And we ended up, of course, we're in Sweden, so we can connect with the organization in Sweden. This organization they sent up missionaries to Gothenburg. And so we started connecting with them and started having a conversation with them and realized that we think the same way when it comes to philosophy and ministry. We have to think outside the box. If we're going to reach the Swedish people is really the people we want to focus in on. We got to think how we do church. We got to think how we do church differently. And so this team, there's a German couple that was leading this team, and they got some missional initiatives going. They were doing something called Serve the City, which was something like you guys are doing. I love coming to this church and the mission you guys have here. I was hearing about this morning, and I think it's great you guys are thinking out into your community. And that's exactly what we were doing. This group was doing. They were thinking, how can we serve our city? And so they started doing some of the things you're doing, just kind of collecting food and helping people that need food, or they were picking up garbage, doing festivals, just making an impression that it's good, that Christians can do good things. But they were having also a very hard time. Okay, where do we go from here? How do we form a church? And so we came alongside them. We got a new leadership up in New Life Church, and we said, okay, Our job is to be a catalyst, to get something going, and then we're not to stay there and back off, the new leadership take over. Then we start working with this team. We said, let's get something going on Sunday nights. Let's have a potluck dinner. And so we did something, another model of church. So New Life was sort of your attractional, contemporary model. This model was more your, what we would call a simple missional model. It's a simple church where we just kind of meet together, bring a potluck dinner, and then we share the message from the Bible, maybe a devotional time, and then we would sing together and do communion together. But it's really a small group of Christians who came together. And then we're continuing to thinking outside the box and going out and reaching out to the community around. But again, this project was in a suburb outside of Gothenburg, about 20 minutes outside of Gothenburg, in a suburb. And 50% of people were immigrants, 50% were Swedes. But again, we're having a hard time reaching the Swedish people. And just thinking, what's going on? Why is it really hard to reach the Swedish people? And me and my wife, out from that project, we were trying to really reach the Swedish people, and we were starting to connect with other groups outside, or connecting with people, Swedish people outside from my wife's work, and friends of friends, and trying to bring people together. So we started something we called pub nights. So we got all of our friends into a pub, and it was a time we just kind of connected and built relationships and so on, and just made friends. And then we had a group that we called the wine group. It sounds like a lot of alcohol here, doesn't it? Just put that on the side. But we had something called the wine group, where, because the truth is, if you want to get Swedes together, it's going to be around a glass of wine or a beer. But so we'd sit in, I started working with another pastor of an international church on the other side of the city, and he had some friends, we had some friends, we were talking, we said, let's try to get something going here. We have a small group where we can talk about faith, and we can talk about God, and we can talk about life. So we started this wine group where we met every other Friday night in the living room of this other pastor. And we got the conversation going, and the first question we asked, is there a God? That's a tough one, and because there's people, I don't know if there's a God. Maybe there is a God, maybe there isn't a God, maybe there's some other higher power out there. And we kind of got that conversation going. Okay, well, come to the conclusion that, okay, maybe there is a God. Okay, if there is a God, what kind of God is he? Is he a moral God? Then we just talk about God being a moral God. Then we kind of went on and talked about this and discussed this and realized that we could talk about life, we could talk about the afterlife. Is there an afterlife? Is there heaven or hell? Or is it reincarnation? Because there are people in this group that believe in reincarnation. So we got the conversation going, we come to the conclusion, there must be something after this life as well. But it was really hard to get to the point of talking about Jesus. This was something that was really, really difficult. Because just talking about God in general in Sweden is a taboo. You can talk about sex, and you can talk about anything else, but don't talk about God. It's a taboo. So we, this group went for a while, and we started another group that met in a sauna. Like I said, I like to eat. So we get people in a sauna, and we talk about different, just kind of throw out different questions. And one example of a question would be, if you had one wish, what would you wish for? Think about that a minute. If you had one wish, what would you wish for? You'd think Swedes, they would want a bigger house, better job, more pay, these kind of things, more materialistic, more consumer kind of things. But the thing that came out the most during that one question was, how can I find inner peace? How can I find meaning in my life? How can I, if there is a God, can I have a conversation? I'd like to ask God a few questions. It became an existential question. I mean, wow, they're looking for some deeper meaning in their life. But again, it's really hard to get in and talk about God or Jesus or anything along those lines. So we were creating these communities where we would talk about spiritual things and talk about life. And so we were encouraged by Christian Associates, this other organization. They said, you got these things going in the city. Why don't you start a new project in the city? So I said, yeah, okay, we'll start a project with these friends that we're making. And so I thought, what? I'm going to take a chance here. And I'm going to start a Facebook group. I'm going to call this Facebook group Logos. Logos will be the name of our ministry. And Logos is a Greek word. And it's a Greek word that means word. Or basically in Greek it means logic, or along those lines. So we get the logic, Logos. And it's the word in the Bible, where in John, where it says the Word was God, the Word was with God, and the Word became flesh and dwelt among God. That word for word is Logos. So basically, the Word that became flesh is Jesus. The Logos is Jesus. So we wanted to give people, how can we get people to know Jesus? So I started a Facebook group called Logos. And I invited all these people that we're building relationships with into this group, and I said, listen, here's what I'm going to do. They know I'm a Christian because of our conversations. I said, I'm going to, every Sunday morning, I'm going to post something from the Bible about Jesus on Facebook. And I'm inviting you into this group. And you can read it in your own home, in your own way, about Jesus. And if this offends you, you can leave the group. And I think about 2 people out of 30 people left the group. That's fine. And I said, you can leave the group. I'm still going to be your friend. We're going to still hang out. That's fine. And so every Sunday for a year, I posted something about Jesus. And then we try to get a group that we would call Logos, meeting once or twice a month in a cafe or a pub. In a little room, there's a little room on its own, the dining table, and we would sit there and we would go through some of the stuff that we talked about on Facebook. And maybe we get 6, 10 people coming, sometimes 5, sometimes 3. But we try to get the conversation of Jesus going. But found that it became more and more difficult. People were still a little bit cautious about anything religious. And so Logos I just started asking this question, okay, why is it so difficult to talk about God? Why is it so difficult to talk about Jesus in this kind of a culture? You've got to understand, Sweden had been a Christian nation, is more or less a Christian nation to some people, had 500 years of church history, a Lutheran church. It has a state church that was Lutheran. So this Church of Sweden was a Lutheran church. People were more or less made to go to church. They had to go to church back in the 1800s, and even before that. It was required at one point where everybody had to go to church or you'd get fined. That kind of so then people, there's 4 major things in the church that people still do today as tradition. You got baptized in the church, you went to confirmation in the church, you got married in the church, you got buried in the church. And so because they were baptized as babies in the church, they were Christians. It wasn't because of a personal faith. It wasn't because of a personal decision. It wasn't because of something that, hey, I believe in God. And so today, people in Sweden still have those traditions. They'll still baptize their babies. They'll still go to confirmation. Kids go to confirmation to get their gifts because they get a lot of gifts. And they get a moped or a bicycle or something. They'll get married in the church because they like the romance of the church. And they, of course, get married in the church because that's what they've always done in the past. But then if you would ask a Swede, well, okay, are you a Christian? Yeah, I'm a Christian. Okay, you ask a Swede again, do you believe in God? No, I don't believe in God. No, of course I don't believe in God. Okay, then how can you call yourself a Christian if you don't believe in God? I mean, doesn't being a Christian mean one who follows Jesus? I mean, that's the meaning of Christian. But no, we call ourselves Christians because that's our tradition. You know, we just like the idea of Christianity. We like the idea of helping the poor, of doing good, and that kind of stuff. So it becomes a cultural thing. So being a Christian in Sweden is just basically a cultural thing. It's not because of faith in God. And so that they don't believe in God in Sweden, the normal Swedes. So most of our friends, most people in our network of friends right now are atheists. They hate religion, anything to do with religion. So you're saying, okay, well then how can you reach these people for Jesus? And when I read this text this morning of Jesus, I believe Jesus is teaching something here. One thing, if you're going to reach your own culture here, you've got to understand that culture that you're reaching. And that's something, the conclusion I had to come to. I have to understand this culture that I'm trying to reach. I believe when Jesus was teaching this parable, listen, and I believe he taught this parable even to his disciples and said, listen, you got to understand this culture. This culture, disciples that you're going to reach, it's going to be like a sower who went out to sow. You're a missionary. You're going to go out and sow this logos in the world. And when you start sowing these seeds in the world, you're going to come through some hard times. It's going to be difficult. Some seeds are going to fall on the wayside, and the devil's going to just come and snatch it up. You know, when you talk about someone falling along the wayside, in Sweden, there's something that happened in the 90s. In the 90s in Sweden, we thought revival was going to happen. It's like, wow, you know, something's happened here. It was the fall of the Berlin Wall. The world was changing, And churches were coming together, and pastors were coming together, and we would pray once a week in the city at a cafe. We'd meet and pray together. Churches would have Sunday night services together. We had New Year's celebrations together, and revivals coming to Gothenburg, yay! And within 1 year, you know what happened? Pastors burned out, churches fall apart. Church of 300 people just closed their doors. And it's like, what just happened? It was a shock. And dear pastor friends of mine, they fell on the wayside. They just got burnt out. Christians burnt out. And it's like, what just happened when we were just praying? Good things were happening. And I began to study the culture. And I said, we need to understand this culture that we're trying to reach. We can't live in our little box. We can't live in this box we call the church. We have to understand the people we're trying to reach. And that's what Jesus is teaching you. There's going to be people who fall along the wayside. There's going to be seed. You're going to go out there, and the ground is going to be really, really hard. And that's the situation in Sweden today. The ground is so hard today, and people don't want to hear about God. They don't want to talk about God. They see religion as something of the past. They see Christianity, the church, Christendom as a thing of the past. We've been there and done that. We don't need that anymore. Religion is the cause of all the problems in the world today. Look at Islam and what's happening with Islam. Secular, the way to go is to be secular, to not have God. We create our own culture, we create our own society. That's why I'm saying Sweden is the most the most secular nation in the world, Scandinavian, Denmark as well. And it basically is because they kind of grew up out of this Christianity that was, you were made to be a Christian. And they said, well, we don't need God anymore. We can take care of ourselves. About 90 to 100 years ago, they kind of threw God out the window and said, we're going to take care of ourselves today. We have a very socialist nation. We pay high taxes. Everybody's taken care of by the government, so we don't need God. You got good benefits, good welfare, good economy, good jobs, good education. And when everything's going so good, it's sort of like the seed is planted among the thorns. The cares of the world become more exciting than hearing the Word of God. So the soil that we're planting in is very, very difficult. It's not good soil. It's not like it was in Eastern Europe where you can plant a seed and see the fruit and you bear it. So then we need to understand our job as missionaries then is to go in and break up this hard ground. And it's a hard job to do. So the question is, how do you do that? How do you talk about Jesus to people who don't want to hear Jesus? How do you plant a church where people don't want to go to church? I think I'm nuts to even try to do something like that. And so I come to this conclusion after being there for so long and understanding we can't plant a church. I shouldn't even be trying to plant a church in Sweden. That's not my job. My job is to go in, break up this hard ground and plant seeds. It's not my job to take up a harvest where there's no harvest. You think about today, missionaries, you think about today where the greatest harvest is in the world. You know where that is? You've been reading a little bit some of the CCM stuff that they've been putting out. The greatest harvest in the world today, if you really want to go and plant good churches quickly, go to South America and go to Africa, and even some places in Asia. These are the places where harvest is happening. But you know why it's happening there? Because of missionaries that went there 100, 200 years ago, who went there on hard ground to the pagans, and they began to break up that ground and plant seeds. They didn't see the fruit of their labor. But today, that's where the fruit is happening. And I have to just trust God that maybe I won't see the fruit. Maybe I won't see good soil. But we need to go there, and we need to break up that ground, and we need to plant these seeds into people's hearts, into people's minds. Because even though they think they have it all together, if you had one wish, what would it be? How can I find that inner peace? How can I have that peace in my life? We all know that there's only one way that we have peace in our lives. And that's when we come into relationship with God. The greatest sin in the world is to have a broken relationship with God, to not be in a relationship with God. That is the greatest sin, because God cries out to His creation, I want to be in a relationship with you. I'm going to send my Son. He's going to die on the cross so that you can come into this covenant relationship with me. This is what it's all about. This is why I do what I do, even when it's so hard. Even when myself think, is it really worth it? I can go back to the States and plant a church. It'd be so much easier. I could go to South America. Why don't I just go there? I plant 10 churches. I know how to do that. Been there and done that, But this is where God has us, because if we don't do it, who's going to do it? So how do you do it? That's the question. How do you do it? I'm good on time here. A couple more minutes. So I come up with this missional action plan. How do you do it? So I already mentioned a little bit how we do it. First, you have to learn from Jesus. How did Jesus do it? Jesus went out to the fishermen out there on their boats. Hey, come and hang out with me. He went hung out with them in the boats. And he went to the tax collectors. Hey, come and hang out with me. I'm going to come to your house. Hey, Zacchaeus, come down out of the tree. I'm coming to your house. We're going to hang out together. He started building relationships with people. He saw people for who they were, not who they are, just people who are broken. The thing that changed my life, changed my thinking, was when I got this idea that the world is bad, the church is good. We don't want to go out in the world, or we're going to get dirty. We're going to be like them. So we're going to stay in our churches and just be good. We're going to try to get those bad people into our church. That's the way I've been taught. I don't know if that's what you've been taught. That's the way I was taught. What changed my thinking was when I realized that those people aren't bad. They're broken. They're just broken people. And I learned this from my grandfather. When I was a kid, I sat on my grandfather's porch in Elwood City, Pennsylvania. I sat on my grandfather's porch, and there's some kids carrying on down the street. I said, Grandpa, man, you got some pretty bad neighbors. My grandpa said to me, nah, they're not bad. They just don't know any better. That was a lesson that I learned that day. People aren't bad. They're just broken. They just don't know any better. And so the reason that people don't know about God is because nobody's told them about God in a more personal way. They learn about, they go to confirmation and they learn about the Christian faith. They learn about religion in the school, but just like Christianity in the school, but just like any other religion, Islam or Buddhism or whatever. It's just another religion. And but they don't. No one's really ever told them that Jesus loves them in that sense. So the first step is build relationships. See people for who they are. Don't think they're bad. See that they're broken. We're all broken, and they just need somebody to hug them and to love them and care for them. That's what Jesus did. And then within that, you need to be able to build trust. Jesus built trust with you. Jesus said, hey, I'm going to come out and hang out with you in the boats. Let's go out and go fishing. I'm going to come out and, but Jesus, we've been out there. We've been trying to fish. We haven't caught any fish. But you've got to trust me. Just trust me. Let's just go out one more time. Go out there, throw out the nets, and then can't, so many fish that they caught that day that they had to get more boats to bring the fish in. And they built trust with Jesus. Peter, come and walk on the water with me. Oh, man, there's too many storms. The storm is blowing. Yeah, but hey, I'm walking on the water. If I can do it, you can do it. And Peter gets out and starts walking on the boat. He's just building, Jesus teaching them to trust him. Just trust him. And then, of course, when Peter got his eyes off of Jesus, he saw him. But build trust. Build trust with people. Once you got their trust, then they're going to listen to you. You can talk about anything. But it takes time to build trust. Especially in Sweden, it takes time to build trust. It's a Swedish word for förtroende. Förtroende means it's sort of somewhere between trust and confidence. Building that it takes a while to build this trust in people. But once you have their trust, there's a saying in Sweden that I first heard when I got to Sweden. To get to know an American, it's easy. But you can't always trust an American. But to get to know a Swede, it's hard. But once you get to know a Swede, they're going to be your friends for life. And it's that trust building. So once you have their trust, they're going to listen to you, and they're going to come to things that you invite them to. So then the second thing, once you have build relationships, the second thing is create community with these people. And that's something we did when we were doing these pub nights, these wine groups, these sauna groups, and we were building community. We were bringing people together where we can have conversation and build trust. And see that we're just normal people like you, but we love God, And so we build trust with them. And then the third point is, making disciples. And how do we make disciples? And the disciple making, that's the hard part. That's where church comes in. That's where we want to see people come into church. But we can't get to that point until we do the mission. You can't do church planning until you do the mission. So I say we're missionaries into this culture, understanding this culture. And the culture that we're living in today, and I forgot to say this before when I'm talking about, Jesus was talking about, teaching us about culture. The culture that we live in today it's very postmodern, it's very post-Christian, and I did tell you that it's very secular. And what I mean by postmodern is, and then when you begin to understand the culture and the kind of people that are living in, postmodern is like this. I will go out there, let me put it this way, postmodern is something that goes beyond modern, right? So in the modern era, we could go out there and I could tell my testimony. Yeah, you know, I was a pretty lousy person. I did this, and I did that. And then Jesus, I found Jesus, and Jesus changed my heart. And He changed my life, and now I'm a new person. We did listen to some testimony this morning about how someone was in prison, and they had this good that they went to prison, they changed their life, and now they're a better person, and they're serving in the church today. I mean, that's a lot of testimony. And we could tell our testimony with someone, and that person said, yeah, man, I see that change in your life. Maybe I need to have that change in my life. Modernism is very rational. You can rationalize, yeah, I need something in my life. Postmodernism is like this. Oh, you know, I was a pretty lousy person. I did this and I did that, but then I found Jesus. Jesus changed my life. You know what a postmodern person will say? That's great, my friend. It's good for you. It's not for me. But hey, let's go and have a beer together. It's all relative. It becomes relative. And so so that's the thinking today. That's the culture we're up against today. Post-Christian. I shared a little bit about post-Christian. Sweden once was Christian. Today it's not Christian. They don't care about church anymore. They don't want church anymore. And secular, they just don't want God on their own. So today, what are we doing today to build relationships and create community? And today we've now collaborated with another organization called Initiatives of Change. Initiatives of Change has been in Europe for over 80 years. It was started by a Lutheran priest from Pennsylvania who started a ministry at State College in Pennsylvania, ended up doing some youth stuff in Oxford, England as well. Started to make a very long story short, and they started a group in Oxford. And then when he himself realized that he needed to make a change in his own life, because he had resentment towards some of his colleagues when he was working at a YMCA, he had resentment towards his colleagues, he said, if I'm going to change, if you know, I can't have this resentment, I need to change my own heart, change my own life. When he changed his own heart, he began to teach that to other people, that you need to change your own heart and change your own life. And if you're going to change the world, where does it begin? It begins within yourself. He started a movement that was first called Oxford Group, then it was called Moral Rearmament after the Second World War. After the Second World War, he brought the Germans and the French together to reconcile, and that's what they do today. If we're going to create peace, it needs to begin with you. And so today we work with this organization called Initiative of Change in Sweden, and they've given us a grant to rent a place, a small room in Gothenburg, where today we're getting some projects going to reach out to. We just started a new youth project. It's film and theater to bring young people together to create. They themselves create film and a theater that we're going to film, and it has to do with good moral values and how to live a good life. Again, it's about bringing people together, creating community. We have film nights. We have just a lot of different ideas of creativity of how we bring people together, and when we're working with them. But it comes just down to, you know, walking alongside people and just saying, you know, I'm here for you. And let me hear your story. Tell me your story, and I'm going to tell you my story. And building trust. And IRC is Initiative Change is all about building trust. I'll tell you my story. You tell me your story, I'll tell you my story. And it's somewhere in that conversation of faith comes in. And all we're doing is breaking ground, planting seeds, breaking ground, planting seeds. Will we see the harvest? Will we see good soil to plant on? Paul said, I plant, Apollos water, but it's God who brings the increase. We can only trust that it's God who's going to bring the increase in there. So this is how we're doing it. This is what we're doing. Sorry if I was a little bit all over the place again. I'm just still a little bit jet lagged. But pray for us in Sweden. It's hard ground, and the only reason that we're still there is because of all of you back home, our church family back home, our Church of God family back home is praying for us, and we need support, we need financial support to keep it going. But that's just allow God to speak to your heart if you can help us in any way to keep us going financially as well. I don't have my prayer cards with me, but I'll make sure the pastor gets some to have back here and to hang on your refrigerator and continue to pray for us, and also information how you can support us. Thank you for allowing me to share with you. I hope I didn't go too far over time this morning. There's so much more I can say, but I'll be around if you have any questions. Thank you.